All right, welcome back to the back of the house. Man, let me tell you what. It's I forget what episode are we in now, Brandon? Like fifth. And we're stepping out. We're doing new things. Last episode, we had the Crown Princes of Prime, Kevin Kimball, Louis Verde from Stabs Prime in Baton Rouge, as well as a number of other Wayne Stabler establishments. And, talking to those guys who both have spent lifetimes in the hospitality industry and seeing how it's changed over the last 30 years was fun, to say the very, very least. Leo, God, with his perspective of not only things in New Orleans where he grew up from an immigrant family and worked his way up to the upper echelon of the New Orleans culinary cuisine, to a point where, he was on the line with Emeril when Emeril left Commander's Palace. And one thing I joked with him after, I said, we missed a tremendous opportunity to go down a rabbit hole of what it was like to really be with Emeril when he was on that trajectory to become the biggest culinary star in the world. The one thing that we all talked about over and over again, it's the loyalty and the thanks for those who brought us along the way, the things that they've taught us, the things we may have taught them, and the most important thing, and that is keeping the culinary tradition of dining excellence alive, And you're looking at a shirt that says 1776 on it. Because, hey, look, it's that time of year, backyard barbecues, Americana, and being the history lover that I am, my guest that's going to join us a little later today, good friend of mine, Neal Bodenheimer. You know him from so many places in New Orleans. Probably his most famous is Cure. We were talking about what it was going to be like to have a cocktail episode, which we really haven't done. I mean, Klesi and I knocked back some 16-ounce Miller Lights, but that ain't necessarily craft cocktails, But I said, look, Neal, we're going to have to do something. And, getting to think about it, I tend to drink a lot of rum in the summertime. And, this country was founded on the distilling of the spirits. And what better symbolizes Louisiana and New Orleans than a good bit of rum? So I'm looking forward to having Neal on the program a little later to talk some cocktails, what it's like, because I am a barman myself, and that is where I cut my teeth in the industry, and I'm looking forward to doing a deep dive with him on that. But, you're talking about 4th of July, you're talking about backyard barbecues, you're talking about all the good stuff. Well, let me tell you about the good stuff that I've had recently. Now, I said when we were going to start this program that the single best bite, it may be a amuse-bouche at a fancy restaurant. It may be a turkey leg from a gas station down the road. Hell, it might be my Aunt Weeta's white beans. But let me just tell you what. If you don't know it, we're filming it the day after LSU has won their 7th national championship. Okay? And for the, what game was that? The first Tennessee game. I went to my boy Brad Bonvillain's house. Okay? I said, Brad, what we gonna cook? And Brad's a bit of a home chef, and I'm a bit of a home chef, and he sends me a TikTok. Now, if you're on TikTok and you follow an Instagram Reels, you can garner a tremendous amount of inspiration from that. And while you may not do the recipe exactly the way that they call for it, it's important to put your own spin on it. Well, let me tell you how we put our spin on it. So what we did was a little al pastor, okay? Now, if you're not familiar with that, let me just give you the breakdown of it. So think about like Lebanese cuisine with a gyro or a shawarma, okay? This recipe called for you to get like a Boston butt or a rump roast. Slice it very, very thin on you can either freeze it and do it by hand, or if you're blessed and lucky enough to have a meat slicer at home, you're getting pretty cheap. You can pick those up fairly easily. We had access. We did it. And you set it on a little, we put together a little mini trempeau, okay? Which is just a spike. And as you see in these Lebanese restaurants where they just stack the meats on top of each other, well, we did it with a pineapple base, as the recipe called for, and a pineapple cap. And I'm sure we're going to throw the videos of them up on the screen right about now. But let me just tell you, we set that in a green egg, okay? We had spiced it the way they called for it to spice, and we basted it with a little agave, some pineapple juice, some Worcestershire sauce, a little bit of brown sugar. And we sprayed it on there the whole time that it was in that green egg, just getting the good on it, all right? And then in perfect, like al pastor fashion, we sliced it. We had some crema there. We had some cilantro. We had some fresh tomatoes from the garden. We had some queso blanco, and we made tacos, man. And let me just tell you what. It was, my mouth is salivating right now just thinking about it. It was lights out, okay? It is without question the single best bite of food that I've had since we did our episode with the Crown Princess of Prime there. It was phenomenal, all right? I want to do it again. I want to do it tonight, but I can't because I got a feeling Neal's going to get me all rum drunk here in a minute, and I'm looking forward to that. So, without further ado, stick around, and while I got you, don't forget, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Our numbers are going up. More people are starting to see our stuff, and it's, thanks to you, and we appreciate it. And who knew we'd have this much support 5 episodes in? But enough about me. Let's get to the booze with Neal Bodenheim. All right, welcome back. My boy Neal. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
What was it like driving down the bayou? You said you never been there.
It was amazing. I mean, I've been down on the bayou. I've never been right here. It was great. I got a little business done. I made a phone call or two.
I mean,
I'll get the scenery.
Scenery between New Orleans and Thibodeau is, it's a lot of Highway 90. Yeah. Once you hit Bayou Lafourche, man, it becomes scenic. Yeah, a lot of oak trees, a lot of trim boats, things of that nature. Always like it where I can get you city boys out here to the country.
Well, I know. I look at it and I'm like, God, I wish I came down here more.
Well, you kind of deal with it with all our partners. So Neal and I are good friends. We hang out in the same group in New Orleans a little bit. We ride in the same Mardi Gras crew now. Thank y'all for allowing a humble peon like myself to into the great ranks of Hermes this year.
If you think I have my hands on the strings of power in Hermes, you are mistaken.
That is a great group. But it's funny because the New Orleans gang that we're hanging out with his lovely wife Miss Kia has 3 homeless people in it. Our good buddy Walt Leger and his lovely wife Danielle, who I've known for since practically high school, and I call her affectionately Fair Alice. Because when I first met Alice Glenn, all right, she was an intern for me when we were working some political campaigns back in the day, and we have just adopted that name over the years, so Fair Alice, and I just can't kick it.
Yeah.
Her husband, who's Brody's such a good friend of all of ours, he hosts a lot of our crawfish balls, and the good thing about having a guy like Neal in your group is that, mid-afternoon after you 9 beers into the crawfish ball, he goes, y'all want margaritas? I'll go run to my restaurant Val's and grab some. And we're like, we never say no to that. We'll never say no to that.
I mean, you should never say no on a hot even on a cold day.
I'm telling you, speaking of hot days, I thought you were going to provide some cocktails. That's right, you are. So before we go any further, the master mixologist here, Mr. Bodenheim, is going to prepare us a little cocktail.
Let's do it.
All right. Through the magic of television, here we are. So we're doing a lot of new things. I mean, last week was the first time we had 2 guests on it. Now this is the first time we do an off-tape.
This is exponential growth for you.
The sky's the limit.
I know. This is our moonshot. You ready?
Go. Yeah, I want to see you do your magic. All right, so Neal Bodenheimer, what are we making?
So we're making Planter's Punch. So nothing better for the summer. It is, it's so funny. I remember in the very early days of Cure, I had a very famous bartender come in to Cure, and we had all these fancy drinks, and the guy goes, I just want a Planter's Punch. And I was like, shoot, which recipe? And I couldn't figure out which recipe to make this guy. And I realized what old bartenders and experienced bartenders want. They want the simplest drinks.
Yeah.
And that's the way that I want these drinks now. And so the thing I love about this drink is you can make it anywhere, right? You just have to have the right ingredients. So let's go ahead and get into it a little bit. So this one's fun. We got great kind of Sonic crushed ice here. Yeah. So when you have this kind of ice, you don't really need to shake to chill, because you're going to get your water, going to get your dilution when you put it on that kind of ice. What you need to do is you need to shake to foam and to integrate. So we're not even going to use any ice when we shake for this stuff, because we got this kind of ice. Anyway, Bayou Rum XO, we wanted some Louisiana rum for this. Absolutely. And this is a nice extra aged rum. So we're going to do 2 ounces, right? Make sure it's got a little pop, right? So Put our Bayou rum in. Next, we're going to put in a little dark sugar syrup. You know, we're in sugar country, right?
Absolutely.
Don't use the refined stuff. Use the real stuff. So this is 2 to 1, 2 parts sugar, 1 part water. Louisiana sugar, straight in. We're going to do a ½ ounce each. So 2 ounces of rum, ½ ounce sugar syrup, right? Then it's just lime. We're going to do it fresh pressed. You're doing this thing at the house, squeeze it by hand. Here, we'll go ahead, just make sure that we're going to make it look nice. You can also strain your rum out, but for the sake of time, obviously you can strain your lime out. For the sake of time, we're just going to just press it right in.
And there's nothing better than the fresh pressed juices. I mean, you can try it other ways, but unless you got the fresh press, it ain't going to be the same.
And when you press it, you get the oil too, and that really brightens it, just makes it wonderful. All right, so we got this. You want to help me out?
I mean, I'll give it a shake. I'll see if we still got it.
All right, let's see if we still got it. You ready? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. So we get it nice and aerated, then you can just pop it open, right?
That I ain't ever going to lose.
No, you got it. You still got it, right? So we're going to take them, just pour it right in here, and then we're going to ice on top. God, these things just the same. You can tell you did this.
And so I had a great measurement assistant.
And so I like to go ahead and put the ice on top so it lives a little bit. And of course, out of an ice bucket, I'm just making a mess.
That's all right. We got this.
And so you just give it a little stir. No big deal. And come put a little more ice on top. Make sure it looks good for everybody. And then the most important thing for a Planter's Punch, Angostura bitters, we keep it in a little dropper just because it's a little easier to know. Put a few little squirts, drops on top. Make sure you get what you need. It smells great too. That's what you want. You want the smell as much as you want the bitters. And then we can just put a little lime wheel on top. Pow.
Very excited. Now, where in the Bodenheimer Empire would I find this?
I mean, really, you just ask for a Planter's Punch. I mean, it's a classic, right? You do a cure, Peychaud's, cane and table.
Let's do it.
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Oh, my God.
That's a summer crusher right there.
And now I'm going to be drinking this all summer. Let's take it back to the table.
All right, let's do it.
And we're back. And I'm about a third into this thing. So, I know you were talking about taking it slow, but one thing I learned in knocking back those 16 ounces with Klesse is that I clearly do not take it slow. So this will probably be gone by the end of the show, but Brandon, who's behind the cameras, doing a little bit of filming. He's got one. Don't think that third glass that we had on that bar went unused. Brandon's got it. So the camera starts to tilt a little bit towards the end. He's a young'un.
You might know why.
Planter's Punch, man. What are your? So I was telling you, and the audience kind of knows we talk about this all the time. My at-home end of the day, little Jack and water. If I'm feeling froggy, I'll make an old fashioned. I also make a poor man's old fashioned with I forget the name of the company, but my niece Dominique sells it at her restaurant. And it's these pre-made simple syrups, and they come in a bunch of different flavors. I got a couple of those, and all I'll do is I'll hit a little bit of that at the bottom, some Peychaud's, pour me a nice bourbon over the glass. I hit the orange bitters. That's it. I stir it.
That's all you need.
That's my poor man's old fashioned.
That's not a poor man's. That's just an old fashioned.
I love it. So when my banquet wine, as I call it, vodka soda lime, right? Yeah. Vodka soda lime. But I'm a situational drink. I'm sure you will too.
Him too.
But when I'm in the sun, it's rum. I love it. I had a Jamaican roommate in college. He introduced me to Appleton's.
Oh man,
dude, the VX, man. I loved it. We drink literal cases of it. And I've been hooked ever since. So I love this cocktail.
There's a reason why Jamaican rum is so famous. I mean, that you get rum flavoring. It is Jamaican rum. I mean, it is the highest ester, highest flavoring style rum there is. So, a lot of times people think they don't like Jamaican rum because they put like a giant plug of like Ray and Nephew or something that's like really funky and strong.
Yeah.
And they're wondering, why they have the worst hangover ever. Well, I mean, that stuff's 114 proof, and it's all flavor. You use splashes of that stuff.
Yeah.
You make rum blends. That's the fun part. I mean, that's the whole basis of tiki and tropical culture.
I love it, and you clearly love it. You went hard in on that in the business, but tell me what's your house wine? What are your favorites?
I mean, I go back and forth. I mean, honestly, my house wine often is wine. So, it is. I'm a wine lover, and I'm not. I'm not some like baller wine drinker. I love hard to find terroir driven wines, and that's where I kind of plant my flag.
Yeah.
And honestly, I love a Scotch and soda. I love a highball. And the great thing about Scotch is in malts is that you can go like really, really, really light for the summer, and then like in the winter, if you want, you can go with something that's like really smoky and peaty and full bodied, and it's just kind of a drink for all seasons. So
yeah, and I personally hate it. And he knows this. I drink anything except for Scotch. That's really about the only thing. I think it's because I grew up in the marsh.
Yeah,
and when you grow up in the marsh, you don't want to taste the marsh in your mouth because I've done that. It's not fun.
100%. And I came back around to it. My parents drank Scotch.
Yeah.
I didn't want anything to do with Scotch. And then I was into single malts for a while, and then I just dropped them. And then recently, in the past year or two, I think really during the pandemic.
Heavy Chevitz household?
No, it was the Dewars. The Dewars.
See, now
my uncle were Cuddy Sark.
Okay, Cuddy Sark. Yeah, my best friend on the planet. He has one of the most robust Scotch collections I know. His go-to, and I keep a bottle of it in my house specifically for him. He loves the Dewars, man. Loves it.
Yeah, Dewars is light. It's easy to drink.
He drinks that shit at the beach. I ain't even joking.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, for like the really light malts, you can drink them at the beach. Like if you were to get like the Suntory Toki, like the really light Japanese malt, I mean, you could drink that thing on a day like today. Yeah, no problem. Now put some soda. You got to put some soda in.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, and look, I love wine. And from one bar owner to another, when I brought in my general manager for Bar Roussel, I've never seen defeat in the eyes of someone that was just starting to work for me. Like I saw that day when he says, "So, we're gonna do this high end wine. We're gonna do this high end cocktail concept, and we're gonna need a nice wine list, and I really want you to tell me what your palate is feeling." And I said, man, I really, really feel that fuchsia yellowtail, that one with the purple label, not the pink label, the purple. That one, so that's my jam. And he's like, crushed.
Oh my God, we're gonna have to focus on cocktails here.
Hey, look, Matt Bolot, graduate of the Culinary Institute here. We love Matt. Matt's one of my best friends, and we got around to it. I said, look, Matt, I like the wet wine. That's my favorite, the wet one. And you handle it. And I love going to the wine tastings. Our good buddy Neal Gernon, we carried a lot of his wine very early on with vending machine, and so fun times. But other than wine, I mean, what is the Neal Bodenheimer like cocktail?
Like if I was
or just liquor, it ain't even necessarily be a cocktail. What do you like?
I mean, I think if you were to look at the back bars at the restaurants that I'm associated with, you just, I don't know what I like. That is like, I kind of like it all in different reasons. I like well-made distillate. And so I find myself drawn to different products, different times of year, different, years of my life. Like, I might go on a massive whiskey tear, and then next thing you know, I don't want anything that has any age in it. But the thing that I always come back to, the thing that I really love, and I don't drink it at the house, but it's a thing that when I drink it, I'm most fired up about is eau de vie and brandy. And it's just, they're all singular spirits.
Tell me more about that.
So the fun thing is that, you think about whiskey, anything with grain, right? And you think about brandy, anything that is fruit-based, and if you want to get really general. And so the thing that you can get is that you get these spirits that taste exactly like the fruit that it's made from. Like there are pear eau de vies that's like, it's like taking a bite of a pear. There are raspberry eau de vies where you taste the seed of the raspberry. And it's kind of part preservation, but it's also that you really get to taste a very specific item from where it's from.
Yeah.
Like a raspberry from Europe couldn't make the trip here, right? But it can make the trip as a spirit.
Yeah.
You can taste something that is very, terroir driven or just, it's something from across the world.
So I know you're one of my more traveled friends. How does one develop a taste for something like that specific? Tell us a little bit more about you. You know, so you're from New Orleans. Where'd you go to school?
So
It's a big thing with us. It's the same question like we always have.
see what
Oh, we were like the New Orleans version.
New Orleans answer, or you want the everywhere else answer?
Well, we'll go to New Orleans first, then we'll go.
Okay. So I went to Newman, which is a professional liability in the hospitality business. And
You like it when somebody from Newman walks into your bar.
yeah, amen. So it's so we don't talk a lot about where I went to school.
Hey, look, speaking of Newman, we just literally wrapped up the Manning Pathé Academy last weekend on campus. We love the Manning. We like Newman because of the Mannings. It was great. We were out here with Archie and Peyton and Eli and Cooper. I've worked with them for a number of years to improve the campus, and we just cut the ribbon on last Thursday on an outdoor practice pavilion. State of the art, probably the best in our conference. The Mannings provided the turfs. I helped get the money to build the deal. It was great. It was funny because Archie and I were talking before the deal. I said, "Man, we've come a long way when we were just trying to get the drainage money for the field." That's a whole nother story. We'll go there. But yeah, we love Newman. We love
I'm very lucky to have. I grew up with Peyton was a year older than me, and I mean we went to lower school all the way through together, and you knew Peyton was going to be a star from.
Cooper's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Cooper. And so, but I played football with Peyton and Cooper, and I would love to say I taught them everything.
And Surrey was on that team too.
Yeah, absolutely. Lee was on the team. Yeah, there were a bunch of people that were on that team, and we were good, thanks to the Manning brothers.
Well, you got a Hall of Fame quarterback at
it helped. I mean, it was I'd love to say that I taught them everything they know, but that's just not true.
But I mean, look, they've been great, as we all know, great ambassadors for the state of Louisiana, the city of New Orleans, certainly for Newman.
Yeah,
Here at Nicholls State, we had another phenomenal camp that literally just wrapped up on Sunday. So yeah,
I'm really excited because Arch is going to my college alma mater.
Yeah, what brought about that decision?
What, to go to Texas?
Yeah.
Well, so like any great person in the like any person that has taken their journey into the hospitality industry, I failed out of my first college, and so I went to University of Arizona, and I just scrapped it, and I went to Austin Community College, and then transferred into University of Texas, and it really is like a microcosm of my life. I failed upward, so, and it's like anything in business, like it's mostly failures, and you learn from your failures, and you try and turn them into success.
You get back to Austin often?
Not as much as I'd like.
Their food scene now. Around this time, I was incredible, and I have friends in the Texas legislature and friends with their staff, and I sent a couple of them. I said, "Hey, give me a top 5. I'm going to dinner on Friday night. Probably do some cooking on Saturday. So tell me, A, where I should go, and B, where can I get the good food that I want to cook myself." And they gave me some great recommendations. I was so impressed with the options that were available to me.
It is. I mean, look, it's as good as any. It's not a small city. I mean, no, I lived there. It was a small city, and then 25 years later, it's a big city. It's a real city, and look, I mean, the cost of doing business there in hospitality is like you're in Los Angeles or New York or any major metropolitan center. In
Angeles, all Franklin barbecue.
No, it's not, and and there's still places that I love that were there when I was there. Maudie's out by the lake is still one of my favorites. I'll go there every time I go to Austin. But then you've got places like Suerte, which I would argue make some of the best Mexican food I've ever had.
Wow.
And you've got Veracruz breakfast tacos that are incredible. We stayed last time we went to go check out the Commodore Perry. Actually, their GM is from New Orleans, of course, right? Yeah. And it was incredible. I mean, the cocktails, the food, the restaurant. It was. I mean, everything was just as good as any place in the country.
Well, we're going to be talking a lot more about Austin as the years go by with them joining the SEC.
So they're going to get killed in the SEC.
I don't think so. I think that they're gonna. It's gonna improve for them. They're doing hell. They just signed a great running back. Well, they got a commitment for a great running back on the recruit class. But I think it's gonna be good for people who look. The year before the pandemic, when we had the home and home sign with Texas and we played at Texas, the national championship year, it would have been great for them to be able to make the return trip. But unfortunately, the pandemic happened. But the number of people that went to Austin, just going, this is a great town. We want to go see it. And look, everybody knows this about me. My three great passions in life are Fridays at Galatoire's, Saturdays in Tiger Stadium, Sundays in the Dome riding Mardi Gras floats. I mean, that's me. That's who I am. So I travel a lot to a lot of the games. There aren't that many, culinary destinations throughout the SEC.
But I will say that
Austin's going to be a welcome respite for those of us that travel. They can go, hey, look, if I really want a good meal, it's got to be something.
There's always one or two great restaurants in every town, though. And I mean, I can think about it. Obviously, you got all of John Currance's places in Oxford, and you see the influence that he's got. I mean, you can look around, Arkansas. I mean, even if you go up to like Bentonville, like they've got class restaurants.
Well, Bentonville's becoming a completely different thing.
Yeah, it is.
Bentonville, the money that the Waltons are pumping into Bentonville is insane. And I mean, my intern last year, her mother lived there. She's from Arkansas. And you're right.
Well, with the exception of College Station, because we know that College Station is just a complete hole.
And Starkville, let's be honest. I mean, it's a cow pasture with a football stadium in it.
Well, although
I challenge you to tell me a good restaurant in Starkville.
Oh my God. Hold on. I will. By the time
we'll come back to that. That'll be the addendum to the episode.
Yeah. We'll come back. But there are just so many great. I mean, like I think about Auburn and my buddy David Bancroft. His restaurants are awesome.
Yeah.
They're just
next time I go to Hawaii, calling you.
Yeah, anywhere you go, there's always at least one or two restaurants. Now you got to get ahead and think about it and make your reservation.
Yeah. I mean, same way I book my. I'm very routine oriented as it relates to those games. For big games, I like to go to the steakhouse Friday night before.
Well, that's just good luck.
And my stabs reservations well out in advance. I mean, it's worked for me this far. I like the way it works now. But so yeah, from Texas, then what happened?
So I mean, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, and I applied to law school, and it was the 2000.
You have a great lawyer. You can drink, and you got a line of shit with you.
Yeah, but I can't think on my feet as well as you guys do. But so I had this crazy idea, and I talked to my brother, and I said we should go travel the world before I go to law school. And you're in tech in 2000, and it's hitting the fan out there. Like, why don't you just take some time? We'll go travel. So it was supposed to be a 5-month trip, and we turned it into almost a year. Wow. We started in New Zealand, and we went to Australia and Indonesia and Malaysia, Thailand. I mean, we ended up actually starting a restaurant in Malaysia at this little beach community called the Prenting Islands. And my brother used to cook for a living, and I had done some front of house stuff. And next thing you know, for a few months, we're running a little cafe. We had.
Did you have all your permits?
We did not have any permits. We didn't have any licenses, no permits. The island was on generators.
Okay.
So like you'd put stuff. It was not. Yeah, you would not win.
Not have a regulatory atmosphere.
There was no gold star food safety there. Let me just tell you. You'd put it in the freezer, and it would run on generators, and then it would thaw, and then you'd make it. It was not what you would do normally. But it was great. In so much of that trip shaped who I am today, and the things that I wanted to do professionally. And so eventually I came back because of 9/11, and I moved to New York right after 9/11. I, for some reason, was drawn there, and thought I was going to go work in advertising because I didn't get into the law schools I wanted to, and had everybody in my life tell me that you should not be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And
she did the smart thing in marriage.
Yes, exactly. So,
love you, kid.
So, and now I know I would not have been a good lawyer. And I've actually seen, a real lawyer do their lawyering.
Yeah.
But
In and out of the courtroom.
correct. Yeah, I never win an argument at the house, I can assure you. But so I ended up in New York, and of course there were no jobs in New York post 9/11, and so I ended up working in restaurants, which I've always kind of bounced into restaurants. I had my first bar job at 18 at the Rindon Inn in the Broadmoor. Oh yeah. And we would do the $10 all you could drink. Those were real fun days. And I just was always bouncing in and out of hospitality. And I ended up working for a guy by the name of Steve Hansen in his restaurant group in New York. And I just needed a job. I just had to pay my rent. And I really liked the professionalization of restaurants there and restaurant work. And I was drawn to it. And eventually I got my job in advertising. And within 3 months, I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I went back and I was just committed to doing that professionally. And I was lucky that Steve Hansen hired one of the country's first corporate mixologists, and my restaurant was the first one that he dug into, and I was just drawn to it.
Yeah.
And it really, that, a few coincidences have kind of given me my entire career in my professional life.
And it's, you talk to people that have chosen, it's like La Cosa Nostra, this thing we do,
Yeah.
And you talk to those people that have those seminal moments in their life where, it's this cross under the Rubicon and jump under the broom or whatever you want to call it, where you go, no, I'm committed. I'm in. I want to get better at this.
Yeah.
I want to learn. I want to take the time to listen to the people who are there to teach me, good and bad. And you start to hone your craft. And the beauty of this industry, hospitality in general, is, look, you may not excel on the line. You may not excel as wait staff. Okay, look, there are restaurant gigs in this state, in this world, where you can make big six figures just being staff. Okay, just wait staff. All right, those times are few and far between, but they do exist. You may be managerial material.
Yeah.
You may be ownership material. You may be bartender for life material. I have multiple friends that are bartenders for life that will die behind the bar. No question. I love those people.
Yeah.
Okay. But all of us that have been in it have made the conscious decision. This is what I'm
Yeah. I want to do this, and I want to.
or I want to try to do it.
Yeah.
And try is a big word in our world. It's a big word in our world.
Well, and it's also Sisyphean, right? You're doing it every day. You're pushing the boulder up the hill every day. And some days, your try is successful, and some days you turn around and and you got your butt kicked, and you're like, why am I doing this?
We affectionately call this show, the Backa House, about the industry that we hate to love, right? Because it's with my staff, we ran a high-end joint on a Mardi Gras route in a town that's the second largest Mardi Gras in the world, okay? In St. Louisiana.
Yes.
And
We might as well call.
I was going to say it's going to be second biggest in the state of Louisiana. It's probably second biggest in the world, but anyway, I digress. But we would be like, I cannot wait to get my ass kicked with these 2 back-to-back parades on a Sunday, okay? Well, after knowing that they just worked the shift probably the night before or the night before that, right? And it's your glutton for the punishment. There's so many rewards, and they're not just monetary. It's when you get into that groove behind the bar, the one that I know so well, the one you know so well, where you and your teammate and the bar pack, and it's all team, but you kill it.
Yeah, you guys you're moving. Everything's efficient, and you're doing what you need to do. It feels there's really only one thing that I can equate it to, and it's like sports.
Yeah,
it's like when you're in the zone in sports, and it's like people talk about the hoop getting bigger, or they could see better. Like when you're really busy and things are going well, you are in the zone. That is just like sports, and everybody's working together.
And look, I mean, you've seen it happen 100 times. You see it probably happen on a daily. When the shit breaks down, and you adapt, and you still just get it done. It's that's one of the things I've always respected about people behind the bar. More so, no offense to the folks in the other aspects of the industry, but we don't stop. Like, you ran out of this. If I'm selling a lot of it, I will put $20 out the tip drawer to the bar back and say, go get some more.
Because I can't, I can't.
I can't lose this customer. I can't lose that table. Like,
You're like, I can't lose it. But also, like, invariably, if you're doing front of house work, you like making people happy.
Yeah.
The people that are really good at it are the people that like get enjoyment by other people's enjoyment. And so the last thing you want to do is be like, no, I'm sorry, I don't have that. Yeah. You're disappointing your guest, and it feels bad. It feels good to make your guests happy.
Speaking of the World Series, it was interesting to watch that Jello shot challenge where the guy runs out of Jello shots. He's like, I had no idea they would buy 40,000 Jello shots.
It's like Miss Mays on Work Saturday. They don't run out.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't know how they did it, but they managed to knock it out. But so getting back to the story, so you're in New York, okay, post 9/11, living that life, and then another crazy ass tragedy to our hometown happened, and that kind of sent you on your path.
It did, and look, New York, I will always forever consider New York my second home. I really feel that it's just affected me positively in so many ways, and I love going back. I love being there. It's an old port town. It felt very much like home. It's so crazy that when New Orleanians go up to New York, everybody in New York thinks that we're New Yorkers.
Yeah,
right. It's because we all have the same port town accent, and I can't tell you how many people are like, "Oh man, you must be born here." I'm like, "No, I'm born in New Orleans."
right.
And so it always felt like a very natural fit for Louisianians and New Orleanians, and so I love being there. It was tough for me to leave, but I also, I'm a South Louisiana guy. I mean, you don't, if when something like Katrina happened down here, like you don't, if you're from here, you just didn't feel like, oh well, sorry for them,
right?
I just felt like I had to come home.
And that brought you home, man. How many years transpired before you decided, I'm going to help rebuild the city in my own way?
So I came down with the goal to open what would eventually become Cure. I had been working on Cure in New York, and I said, look, there's no reason why this can't work in New Orleans. New Orleans is maybe not as cosmopolitan as New York, but it's a cosmopolitan city. At least we like to believe we are, for sure.
Absolutely.
And
have a history of it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a great cocktail destination. It's very fertile cocktail ground, and there were plenty of people that were doing a great job with cocktails before Cure came along.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I had a very specific vision, and it's one of those things, and I don't know, I'm not the most creative person. I'm like a semi-creative, but I think that it must be the way that people feel when they have to write a song or paint a painting, where they're like, I have got to get this thing out of me.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I had to do it. And so I was on a mission to try and find a place, and Ferret just happened to be the right place for it. And honestly, people now,
actually, a lot of naysayers going,
a lot.
Why Ferret?
Including my family.
Yeah.
And a few interventions, in fact. And I think part of it was, I'm very lucky that my business partner, Matthew Conkey, really had the imagination to see what Ferret could become. I mean, it was totally flooded out.
Yeah, right.
And there was nothing going on.
For those of you who don't know, and I've been told this multiple times, I guess it's a good thing for viewers that aren't from around here. They're like, you need to elaborate more on the stuff that y'all know that we don't know. And just to give you an idea, when you look at the Crescent City, okay, on a map, and it's shaped like this, and the river goes like that, the area in which we were talking about is basically, you heard it called New Orleans as a city in a bowl. You're at the center of the bowl, okay? I mean, they had at least 12 foot water.
It was swamp. It was so Cure's in a firehouse that was finished in 1905, right? Everything around it was swamp, and it was drained swamp. And so what happened when the levees breached? I mean, it became swamp again.
Right.
And it was, I didn't have the imagination to see it. Matthew really did. And I was just desperate to do this bar. And we were lucky that we got to purchase the building, and we we put a lot of heart and soul and whatever dollars we could get together into it, and that's how we made it.
Yeah. And I mean, very much credited with being the anchor of the Ferret revitalization, renaissance, however you want to call it.
We're not the anchor anymore.
You know, y'all are the old maiden. I mean, you're the...
Yeah, we're coming on 15 years in February.
I lived in New Orleans for Katrina, evacuated, lost my apartment. We were not in the area of the city that flooded. We were close to the river, close to the port. My good buddy Matt Gresham and I were splitting a place that still works for the port. Matt, the great guy.
Oh, I know Matt.
Yeah,
and that's awesome.
Oh, certainly like the bars.
That may be how I first met Matt.
Great guy. Gonna be with him for the fort. Anyway, I mean, it was for years. You know, you wondering if it was ever going to come back. It took people like you to not only dedicate your time and your treasure, but your life to help bringing back. I mean, it's your home city. It's my. I mean, I grew up 45 minutes away from it. I was driving to it all the time. Spent a lot of my life there. Lived there 3 times. Go back twice a week. It's still your home. I mean, you went through this career prep there. You lived it.
It is my home, and look, I can be as frustrated by New Orleans as the next person, but it still has my heart, you know. And I still, you know, I'd like to. You know, I was born there. I'd like to die there. You know, God willing, we'll see.
And some days you feel like you will.
But that's true. Pure, man. I mean, it's become such a part of the New Orleans lexicon. I mean, y'all are now a legendary place. I can't envision a world where you guys don't succeed. You know, there's always...
I mean, I could envision it in about 2020 and about March 2020. I was wondering.
I could imagine. But, you know, we've talked at length about the challenges of the pandemic in the early parts of the show. I know, you know, I joke about the Bodenheimer Empire. You've got Cure, you've got Cane and Table, you got Valve, you got Patio still, you've got some interest in Dauphine. We're going to get to all that stuff. But I want to stay on Cure for a minute. All right?
Well, Cure's my baby.
I mean, your baby, it's become such an iconic location. And the kudos that you guys have received. I mean, run us through some of your accolades that you got nominated for, that you won.
Well, you know, I try and...
Now's not time to be humble, Neal.
Well, but you got to, okay. I'm going to tie this back to one of your loves. Okay? So one of the things that we like to say when something big happens to us is a Sean Paytonism that came from Bill Parcells, which is don't eat the cheese, right? And it's true because I mean, like, these things are great. And they're great for the team. Like, they're really good for everybody's pride. But they also, some of them create problems. Like the James Beard Award created some problems for us. We had to change our business. But
how so? Go into some detail on that.
So, Cure's a neighborhood bar, and it was very casual. And what happened is the expectations went beyond really what we were as a neighborhood bar, and people were getting in cars and coming up to see us, and they were expecting James Beard quality, which I don't really know what James Beard quality is, but it was as a much higher ideal in a neighborhood bar in a small.
And again, for those that don't know, tell them, give the spiel. Tell them about the James Beard.
So we won the James Beard Award in 2018 for outstanding bar program in the country.
That is not a small thing. He's such a humble man. That is not a small thing. When you win anything for the whole country, as, you know, was once said, that's a big friggin' deal. Except they didn't say friggin', mama.
It was a big deal for us. And it was a big deal because, I mean, when we started, I mean, they didn't have a James Beard Award for bars. Like, they didn't even exist. It was never a goal of ours, right? So we just wanted to not go out of business.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that as a bar owner, like, you know, and in the early days of Cure, like, I put up my own personal bar collection because we didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe if we sell this, we can pay our mortgage.
Yeah.
No. So it just wasn't a goal.
But look, I mean, that's such a blessing to own the building that you're in, too.
It is.
As you know, and as you've known other people who did not own the space in which they're...
It is. I mean, look, and we couldn't have done any of the other things that we did had it not been for the equity that we that we accumulated in the building. And so it really was critical, and it was a lot slower. But then sometimes you also have to ask yourself, like, are you in the hospitality business or you're in the real estate business?
Yeah, right.
And look, real estate's great, but like, I don't know anything about real estate. I know about bars and restaurants.
Yeah.
So, but I am very glad that we bought the building.
So you win this huge award. It changes things in a good way, not in a good way.
So next thing you know, we're like 2x busy. We don't have the systems for it. People are coming in, they're pissed off because the wheels are coming off every night, right? Everybody's doing the best job they can, but we're looking at it and we're like, this just doesn't work.
You're trying to do volume. Well, you're almost forced to try to do volume in a bar that is not it takes a minute for some of your cocktails.
Yeah. And so we were doing volume because we were doing it. We never thought that people would deal with reservations or lines or anything like that at a bar. So we would, if we got like super packed, we would close down the door. But ultimately, we had to make it more measured. Part of it was the James Beard Award. Part of it was also the pandemic. But we have a much more metered service today than we had, even a few years ago. And a lot of it is just that, we had to figure out a way to spread our demand because everybody wanted to come through at the same time, and we just couldn't do it. We can't make drinks that fast.
Yeah.
No one can. And I don't care if you're doing highballs or if you're doing, 10-step cocktails.
Yeah.
There's only so fast you can put them out. And we just felt like we weren't making anybody happy, much less ourselves. So we had to change it.
And, we talk about your other places, and I want to touch on each one of them for a little bit. Right across the street, you've got Val's.
Yeah, Val's has been fine. Val's almost broke us. Let me tell you.
Tell me more.
So Val's.
So first of all, for those the uninitiated, what is Val's?
So Val's is a Mexican restaurant. A significant portion of it is outdoor dining.
Yeah.
Which was
it's pretty much in an old gas station.
It's in an old gas station that we looked at. It was in
Austin.
It is, and it's very Los Angeles. Now, I would never ever recommend anybody do anything in an old gas station, an old dry cleaner, or anything that had X-rays. Like they're much more difficult deals.
Yeah.
There's just anytime you're dealing with the DEQ, it is not a good idea. Yeah. So it took us a long time, and there were a lot of challenges, and look, we were significantly over budget on it, and then we were supposed to open in April of 2020, and we had to go find money to finish it, and when everything was closed down, and I didn't think we were going to do it. I thought we were going to lose everything, and it ends up that we opened, and we had planned before anybody knew that outdoor dining was going to be a huge driver because of the pandemic.
Right.
We had a lot of outdoor space, so we just did outdoor service, and it was by sheer accident. It was the only place that felt like a normal restaurant because you actually had enough people that it felt busy and bustling, but it was all outdoors and spaced.
Right.
So it was safe.
Yeah.
And it really was a huge part of our success there.
And the margs are great.
The margs are great. The food's great.
Food is great.
Chef Alfredo does an amazing job with the food. Turk Dietrich, who's my partner there as well, does an amazing job with the drinks and the whole team there. And
right across the street.
Yeah, right across the street.
Kia's got her law firm right there, and
yeah, Kia's above Cure.
And Cure's, it's very chummy. They're gonna own the whole block in a minute. Ooh. It's really nice when you and your friend are having a cocktail and you send them a text. Hey, look, I need to run. We need to catch up at some point. I'm over at Val's. It just reminded me that I need you to sign a book that I'm giving to somebody for Christmas. Walks across the street, brings me a hat, signs the book, goes back to work. I'm like, this is great. This is great. The other great thing about Val's being so close to where we all hang out and everybody's houses and whatnot is, like I said, those crawfish balls. When you get towards the end, the beer's getting a little stale. Man, we'll run to Val's, get fresh gallons of margs. You really cannot beat that. Get you a friend like that. Anyway, so you've got Cane and Table. Tell us a little bit about that one. And
So Cane and Table is all tropical, right? And so one of the great things that it kind of happened. It was very, very, very strange situation. I had a friend that owned a bar. Ends up it had a restaurant license, but he rented his bar, and he was looking to sell, and we were kind of looking around, not very seriously, and he said, "Do you want to buy the bar?" And so,
This was your second.
yeah,
Right?
it was our third because we had a hotel contract at the Hotel Modern at Lee Circle, and we did an entire low proof bar called Belloc.
That's right.
It was really fun, and it was way ahead of its time, and I loved it, but I did not love where we were and how we were doing it. And so when the hotel sold, we walked away from it.
So third venture.
So it was our third venture, and it was I was right on the heels of Belloc, and it just kind of happened. It kind of fell in our lap, and we said, let's do it. And it was all about the influences on New Orleans that kind of from the south up. So we looked at Cuba, we looked at Puerto Rico, Mexico a little bit, all of the islands. We were just like, thinking about everything that, we talk so much about what influences this region from across the Atlantic, but there's so much on this side of the Atlantic that has filtered up through the port. And that one's been really fun. And, as I said, it was a restaurant license, and we decided in the early days, we ran it like a bar with a small restaurant, and now we run it as a restaurant. And they do an amazing job. Alfredo, once again, is the chef partner there. And then Mike Hampton is the executive chef, and they're both, incredible.
Great outdoor seating.
Yeah, I mean, look, you couldn't. It's like out of central casting.
Yeah, it really.
I mean, the building was built by the Ursuline nuns. I mean, it is like one of the older buildings in the quarter, and it feels like it.
Yeah.
For good or for bad, it's like a movie set. Sometimes we're just trying to keep it together.
And so Peychaud's is probably one I don't know the most about.
Well, I mean, Peychaud's opened up during the pandemic, and it was a unique opportunity. I'm very lucky to have met two gentlemen who live in Nashville who were Louisiana guys, and one's Lafayette, one's Baton Rouge, Chris and Talbot, and they had bought the Maison de Ville, and they were, trying to fit. So they had a tenant, and the tenant was going to do a bar there, and then the tenant bounced during the shutdown and said, "Look, I'm not going to be in New Orleans. I'm out." And so they had a half-built bar, and they said, "Do you want to come take a look?" And I did, and I wasn't sure what to do with it, or I couldn't. You have to remember the time. I was like, well, "There's no one in the French Quarter.
Yeah,
like no one's here. What are we? What are we going to do?" And it was it was hard to imagine, but as we started looking in the history of the building, we realized it was Antoine Amity Peychaud's. It was one of his homes. And so if you go to the historic New Orleans collection, it's called the Peychaud House.
Now tell us who that is.
So Antoine Amity Peychaud is a famous apothecary, well, at least famous in our world, right? And he's famous for creating Peychaud's bitters, which is arguably the most important New Orleans cocktail ingredient that exists. And if you look at almost every classic New Orleans cocktail, and with the exception of the Ramos Gin Fizz and a few others, it has Peychaud's bitters.
I mean, if you don't know what a Peychaud's bitters is, you probably ain't paying attention.
You may not be watching
this. You're probably not watching this. But no, man, that is amazing. And you do love history so much. We're going to get into that here in a second. I just think that's incredibly serendipitous.
Well, and you look at it, and all of a sudden I was like, of course we have to do this.
Yeah.
But we weren't sure if we could call it Peychaud's. Sazerac Company has a trademark on Peychaud's. So they were kind enough. We asked Mr. Goldring and Mark Brown and the Sazerac team if we could use their trademark. And I didn't know whether they would let us or not. And I don't think they did. I think we were very lucky that they saw the value in it and that they trusted us with the trademark.
That's awesome.
And so that's why we're allowed to call it Peychaud's, and it's been wonderful. It's a great little bar. It is never going to be the bar where you're like, man, I'm going to go meet 50 of my friends there.
Yeah.
It is not. It is a very small bar, but I just got back.
Those are the best.
They are the best. I just got back from Europe, and all the bars there are small.
Yeah.
They all feel good, and there's something awesome about a small bar.
But we've drank together at Jewel at South.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just that place is not a big place.
No, and I mean, what they're able to do at Jewel at the South in a very small footprint is miraculous. It really is.
Agreed. One place that is not small, Dolphins.
No.
Okay. Tell me about your involvement with that gym.
So Dolphins is another. I mean, so many of these things happen through people I meet, having a drink, and you're just talking about stuff that that you're passionate about. And so I have an old friend of mine from New York who's from DC. And his family owns the Dubliner, which is one of the most iconic Irish bars in all of DC. And they opened up, him and a bunch of his friends did a project called the Salt Line, which has been a runaway hit. And that's the first one is right next to Washington National Stadium. And so you go there and you eat oysters and drink drinks and then you go and have dinner, and then you go into the stadium, and then you go back there, and I mean it's an incredible spot. And then they've since grown to Boston, Virginia with the Salt Line, and very soon Bethesda, Maryland, and they wanted to try a different concept around seafood, and they all love New Orleans, and they were down here. We were sitting at Brightson's. We were talking about Frank earlier offline. And we were just talking about New Orleans cuisine and drinks, and a week later they're like, "Do you want to just do this with us?" And I liked all the guys, and I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so it was really not very well thought out on the front end, but it's been a wonderful partnership, and I love getting to go up there, and I'm really proud of the work that we do at the restaurant.
And it's making it.
Oh, it's making it.
Let me tell you what. Dolphins, number one, people don't think of DC as being a culinary town.
It
but
is.
Major League is.
It is.
Major League is. And, I joke that Cajun and Creole cuisine is the easiest and the hardest at the same time to replicate. But because people can confuse, spicy with seasoned, and to the uninitiated or a non, sophisticated palate, you can make some red beans, you can throw some hot sauce on the top, and everybody thinks it's delicious. So every city you go into has a Cajun this, or, oh man, if you made these in this town, you would kill it. You kill a lot of people who are successful.
Yeah.
But when we go and we try it, we're like, this.
Yeah, you're like, this sucks.
Town. Dolphins, it's not traditional Cajun or Creole cuisine by any means. But at the same time, it has managed to really, really succeed at being a Louisiana restaurant, not in Louisiana.
Well, and I think that part of that is that you can't fake it.
Right.
Right? And so we were lucky that Kristen Essig was our opening chef, and she had been a New Orleans chef. But more than anything, I think that we knew that there was a lot of stuff like that just won't travel.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't plop Galatoirs into a large. Yeah.
God bless it.
You can't,
but no.
But you can't like some of the food that we eat is cultural, right? And some of it just doesn't go past our border well, and some of it is evergreen and will work anywhere. And I think for us, we had to take a look at the fishery that was around us, and in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, and make sure that we made a restaurant that was compelling to people that are there, but also true to the Louisiana spirit. And that meant that you have to build something in between.
Let me tell you, the white oyster spaghetti.
Oh, man. You want to know how I got turned on to...
Hang on. So this is by Lafourche. I'm looking out the window. Right there. It's by Lafourche. Okay. Goes from the Mississippi River down to Seville all the way to Fouchon. But when you cross the Intercoastal Canal in South Lafourche, it's a whole another country. It's got a 10th ward. Okay. The accents get flattest where my daddy's from. It's Chabert country. Okay. We got a white oyster spaghetti, and my grandfather's an oysterman, okay? It's my blood, coach. We got a white oyster spaghetti, we got a red oyster spaghetti. Okay,
well,
now the pie.
I've never had red oysters.
Oh, it's just as good. But they're totally different.
Yeah.
Okay, so whenever you say, like, I got a white oyster spaghetti, some people may not get it. Spectacular. You can.
So that's my favorite dish there, by the way.
It's phenomenal.
And so, I was...
Although that thing with the fried hog head cheese,
Oh, that's awesome.
Also,
The mussel, and this is like the not Louisiana thing that I really the marinated mussels and absinthe.
I didn't
It's like it's on the raw bar. It's
I
like,
saw it in the
so-
book though.
yeah, it's one of my favorite things. It truly. There's a reason why it's in the book. It's like I can't get enough of this. Yeah, but it's so fun to watch them play around with like rockfish almondine. Like you wouldn't see rockfish down here, and so they get a chance to look at the preps that we do, and run it through what they have and what's good up there. But the oyster spaghetti, it's there's a funny story around it. I really got obsessed with the oyster spaghetti because I was at a fundraiser that we were part of the Robert put together, the Robert LeBlanc put together, and we kept hearing his dad and someone else talk about oyster spaghetti, and honestly, I started to think about oyster spaghetti and all the times I had it growing up, and I just started thinking about it more, and that was years ago. And then later on, I was like, we should do oyster spaghetti.
It's legit. I mean, it's ridiculous. But speaking of the book, okay, this thing, I don't know if you ever tried to write a book, but it's hard. Okay,
it's a lot easier with a co-author.
But we were talking about how impactful and influential Cure was. It really was the catalyst for sort of New Orleans taking a pivot. We had existed for such a long time on being, a faux version of what the past was, port city. Mm-hmm. We talked about how New Orleans was a major metropolitan hub. It was like a third largest city in the country right before the Civil War. I mean, big place. Had everything. And then we've kind of rode that for a long time. And through some ebbs and flows, we've managed to repackage a lot of the old stuff and make it new. What you guys did was new, all right? And you kind of changed the way New Orleans thinks of itself from a culinary and hospitality standpoint. But what you do in the book, okay, in my opinion, is you take a lot of those finer points of the past. You don't shy away from the controversial stuff, which I also like. Okay, you confront it, you talk about it, big fan of that. But then you say, hey, look, we got all this great stuff. There's a tourist version, there's a local version, then there's your version, but there's also going to be a new version. And that new version started with the post-Katrina life. It did. Started with the reconstruction of the city, and it's kind of carried on. People around the world, the pandemic in many ways helped show people that life outside of these mega cities like New York and Chicago and in some ways Houston, you could be a tech wannabe millionaire, but if you're paying $700,000 a year between taxes and your mortgage, you really ain't making that much money.
That's right.
And as you can do the same job in a city like New Orleans, and your money goes a lot longer.
It's a high quality of life if we get some of the stuff that we need to get handled as a city handled.
100%. But they also want things like this that were places like Cure that existed in other cities but didn't necessarily exist in New Orleans.
Correct.
And we're starting to pivot and go more into that sort of modern kind of, we're still New Orleans, but this is our version of it.
Well, and look, food and beverage and culture, it's all jazz, right? It's like you pick and you choose and you make your own thing, and that's what is so beautiful about culture is that it's not, you have your base culture, but it evolves via influence. And that's what happened post-Katrina. That's what still happens. It happens every day in life. And it happens faster because of smartphones and in social media now than ever.
One of the things I like really about the book is you don't even get to page 1, and he's already telling you about his favorite places, okay? Some people shy away from that. My first episode, okay? Chef Randy Cherami, one of the instructors here at the university, great friend, amazing chef, bigger personality, was like, cool. I don't know about that critical critique thing. I critiqued somebody one time, got my ass jumped. Don't do that.
Oh, I got
that's great. But we're gonna have an opinion on this show. I love that you give a shout out to your favorite bars and your favorite restaurants and, some of your old line places. We were talking about Frank Brightston.
But there are lots of places that didn't make the book that I love too.
No question, and no slide about them. But it's more about the ones that did.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is, yes. And I went through it, and I'm like, I already knew we had a lot in common. But Bartonese,
Yeah, love Bartonic. I hadn't been there in a long time.
Neither have I. But it's there. It's there. It's solid. It's a staple.
Yeah.
Reminds me a lot of Cure in many, many ways. The restaurant.
Yeah, I was there. I was part of their team when they opened.
You've got a great mix of old school, some new school. Turkey and the Wolf, what they're doing with the basics, it's stupid. Pesh. Brightson. I always give Frank a shout out just for we're always going to be.
He's the best guy too.
What he did here for so long, we're forever. Love his restaurant.
Me too.
I mean, I like that he stayed so centered, and this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. This, by the way,
and
this was all I need to do.
And I'm going to do it better than anybody else.
100%.
Yeah, and Frank is a gem of a guy, and his whole family.
Yeah,
amazing. But more than anything, Frank really is he's the keeper of the flame for New Orleans cooking. That's right. He really is. And if you haven't, if you listen to this show, which I hope you do, and you haven't been to Brightson's, you've got to.
Yeah, absolutely need to go.
Yeah,
and you need to try, okay? Because it's not someplace you can walk to. You're gonna have to get there, make a res. It's awesome. Another thing, you talked about your love of the chart room. More importantly, you talked about your time at Backa. Listen, we often on this show talk about places that are going ain't there no more.
Ain't there no more.
I friggin' loved Backa.
I think for a year existed on the Creole gumbo and their Brett.
Yeah.
And that's what I would have for a staff meal every day.
Freaking loved Backa. When I moved to the city first time in 2002, I went for the first time with Senator Landrieu, and we had a function there, and just from that moment on, until they closed.
Yeah.
All right.
I told Ralph. I saw Ralph. I see Ralph here and there now, but I told him, and I remember it. He was
Ralph Brennan.
Ralph Brennan, who owned Backa. I was a host. I was 18 years old. I just failed out of college, right? And I got my first job when I failed out of college on a beer truck as a helper, making $5.50 an hour and doing.
Is that how you ran into Bolot?
No. He didn't want any part of the job I was doing. And I remember a friend of mine was like, his cousin was a manager at Backa. And I was like, "Do you have any friends that want to be hosts?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do anything besides this." Yeah. Right. And I just loved being in a restaurant, and I loved the work. And I told Ralph that, I was really grateful for the basics that they taught me at Backa that made me want to come in and out of the restaurant business for so long. And I have very, very, very fond memories. And I have even fonder memories of going to the chart room after the shift.
Right around the corner.
Except literally time that I burnt myself on flaming chartreuse.
You got to tell that story. It's in the book, but you got to tell the story.
Yeah, it was, everybody that worked there. I was like a kid. I was a baby compared to everybody that worked there. And
so you're showing off is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, of course. And you light it on fire, and I had my lighter, and I went to take the shot, and the lighter was so hot that I burnt my chin. It was terrible. It was a terrible story, and I was very, very embarrassing to go in with a burnt chin the next day.
Well, my first bartending gig was in my brother's truck stop, and in the bar, we had in the bar video poker machine, which was stupid. Mm-hmm. Okay. Particularly when we ran it like a real bar, not like a video poker ball. This is the Wild West. It's newly legal. Everybody's there. Like, we had karaoke, we had card tournaments, we did it all. It was nuts. And the bartenders would make bank. We'd make friggin' bank. Okay, we weren't giving away drinks because they played the poker machine. This was a bar that had video poker in it, and it was awesome. And we would get those parties going, and people would get drunk, man, and they would want to do some stilly shots. And we did a line of Flaming Dot came up one time. And just one little hit knocked over about 2 shots. All the rum was on the bar, in the video poker machines, and on fire. It was
oh my god.
Okay, it was nuts. But I digress. But speaking of all that stuff, the best part of us being able to do this show right now is your enterprise of Tales of the Cocktails coming up.
So, and it's certain.
Tell us all, first of all, because look, you can be in the restaurant, you could be a foodie, you can do all that shit. You may not know what Tales of the Cocktail is. If you don't know what it is, you really need to.
I mean, it's so just exclusively industry facing.
Yeah.
At this point, and in that it wasn't always like that, and we didn't. I didn't found it. I didn't. Ann Tunerman found it, and she did an incredible job and built an incredible thing, and then we purchased it from her, and we have since turned it into a foundation, and basically its only job is to support the spirits industry.
So walk us
educate, advance, and support the global spirits industry.
So walk us through the event. Tell us a little bit.
So it's a week in July. It'll be the last week of July this year. It's always either the third or the fourth week of July.
It's when a lot of people over here that are watching this are going to be at the Grand Outdoor Open Rodeo.
Correct, right? But what makes it incredible is that it is the world's most important spirits festival, conference, awards. I mean, this is everything that happens in one of the sleepiest times in New Orleans, when it is hot, sticky, no one's coming, is what ends up filtering out into the world for the rest of the year. It's just incredible. Everything beverage and cocktail related that is important. It all happens here. Oh God, I have to take a look. It's the fourth week of
very last week.
Someone on the Tales team, when they see this, is going to kill me for saying that. But let's see, the 23rd, I think, is the first event.
There you go. Well, look, man. I asked you this when we were offline. We were starting to prep the bar out a minute ago. I appreciate you being here. We talked about you been on for a while. Love the book. I want to know, though, what does it take to win Outstanding Bar Program? Tell me what that means. What is the James Beard Foundation looking at when they award something like that?
I mean, the short answer is that I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I think for us, we just kind of put our head down and we did the work that we like to do. And I think that, if asking me this question, I have to think about what I would. Hospitality, I mean, most businesses or pursuits, it's and I hate this game, but I'm going to make the analogy. It's like golf. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. It matters what you're doing.
Playing against yourself.
Yeah, and so we try and play against ourselves every day. I mean, that voice inside of your head is a lot meaner to you than you'll ever be, than anybody else would ever be. And I just try and keep motivated and try and get better. And that's it.
I asked the question, I had to scratch that itch myself, right? And when I started Bar Roussel and eventually Gray and the ventures that we were involved in, that was one of the things that was very, very important to us. We wanted either seasoned professionals that we knew had not, I've been working the same bar for 20 years. No, I wanted to see somebody who had excelled as a bartender in a couple of places that I had been to that had done well. Wanted somebody that was of the industry to run it, work it. We wanted you either to be completely experienced and professional or not at all.
Blank canvas.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And we took several of those. And our team became very much like a family through the 7 years that we were operating everything, and it was about having a very well-trained staff, having the cocktails that we offered that were uniquely ours.
Yeah.
To the point and consistent and every single time. And I think about the work that we had to put in to do that, and it being nowhere near the caliber of even being considered for something like a James Beard Award. So, my friend, You are humble. You're one of the most humble, fucking successful people I've ever met in my life. But that is something that you guys need to be proud of. And I know you are.
Look, we're very proud, but like, I mean, ultimately, it's not why we got into it.
Yeah, of course not.
And look, all the, I'm not gonna lie, it's great. It's great to get acknowledged for your work, right? But like ultimately, like Cure just got 50 best bars in North America, and I was so happy, as happy as I've been for anything, because we spent the past year talking about Cure Past, right? And talking about all the things we've done because we put it in a book, right? And so I was very happy, maybe as happy as for any award that we've ever won, for the team, because the team that is there right now gets to be like, hey, the past is great, but it matters what we're doing right now.
No doubt.
And like, and for what we do, present matters, right? And you gotta have a team that's willing to go now and that wants to push now, because if they're just looking back all the time, like what's keeping them going?
Yeah. And look, that's so important because probably more so than any other industry in hospitality or any other sector or space in hospitality, bars have the turnover. I mean, they just turn people over. And, what sucks is that that little unit that you have where you can have a pillar or a couple of pillars of bartenders that are your workhorses and they become legendary, they develop their customer base, people go back to see them, and then when they go, you got to replace them or somebody moves up, and it's evolving and it's ever changing. So when you say it makes sense about, Cure Pass and that staff who you love and you respect and all that stuff. But this is it's a totally different Cure, even though it's a completely the same Cure.
But it is, and it's like very exciting for me because, the past is the past. But I love looking forward, and I love seeing what we're going to do, and I'm very excited. I once had a boss that said everybody's replaceable, and I hated it.
Yeah,
and it drove me crazy because I was like, well, I don't feel replaceable, right? And what I realized is that positions are replaceable, but people are not. And everybody that works in a position has a unique skill set that is unique to them. And when they go, no one will have that same package of skills ever again.
Yeah.
But the exciting part about that is that the person that comes in next is going to have a totally different skill set. And where you're going to go as a business, as a bar, as a restaurant, or whatever you're working on, you're going to go in a different direction. And it's going to be exciting and new and different.
Well, man, I'm excited to see what the next venture of CureCo is going to look like. And I can't wait to be there for the opening night party. Neal, my friend, thank you. We appreciate it. It's been a great show.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. So we're going to come back shortly. We talked a lot about oysters, and I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite places to get them in the city and how they knock it out of the park on a consistent basis. And it would be the critique, but I didn't tell you how they didn't knock it out the park this one time. So we'll see you in a second. All right, so I have to tell you the only thing really better than one Planter's Punch is two Planter's Punch. And I can't thank my buddy Neal for coming out and doing such a great show. Check out his book, Cure, New Orleans Cocktails and How to Make Them. If you haven't yet, you really need to get it. Christmas gift for some of y'all. It's really going to be the quintessential New Orleans cocktail book for years to come, and hopefully for hundreds of years, because he did such a great job of weaving a story, talking about the bars and the restaurants and the food, and he and I talked about a couple of them. And one of the places that I really like to go get oysters at in New Orleans is Seaworthy. It's right around the corner from my old office. It's right near the condo we use. And, they hit it out the park all the time. It's a quaint little place right next to the Ace Hotel. And, down to the crackers, it's kind of unique. They got oysters from the Gulf. They get them from Alabama. They got ceviche. They got all these things. Their French fries are spectacular. But I tell you, I was there a couple of weeks ago, and we got the stone crab claws. And they weren't just not good. They were terrible. And it brought me to this point where I'm like, when you're excelling at so many things, they've got some blue crab on the menu. That's spectacular. It's there. It's local. It's great. We got a whole lot of king crab claws around here, all right? Why you want to put that on the menu, and if you're going to put it, why aren't you going to make that thing something that you excel at? So Seaworthy, that might be one you want to discard. You're doing a great job every other way. But check out Seaworthy nonetheless. The bar staff is great. There are a lot of local folks that are working there. The venue is amazing. I love it. I ain't stopping going back. But I told them that the crab claws sucked, and they did. So just remember, if you can't do something great, you might not do it. Might not want to do it. Might not want to do it. But one thing that we're doing great here is enjoying our guests and enjoying some of the stories that we talk about as it relates to this industry. We hate to love, but we do. And Neal's one of my guys, good friend, and a bar guy like I am. So we hope that you subscribe, you hit that like button, you come back to see us. We've got a few more guests before we round out this season, and we hope you keep coming back. If you haven't checked out some of the other episodes, we invite you to go do that now. And till then, happy 4th of July. Go America.